Feminists have gotten away with saying some really dumb and crazy things for a long time now with basically no pushback. And that's mostly because the mainstream media, and not just the media, but the mainstream itself tends to agree with them as far as academia, entertainment, and yes, the media. They're all in the feminist corner. And with social media, these ideas, they spread like wildfire. And that, I believe, is a big reason why the birth rates will keep dropping. Women are becoming more and more radicalized. They're becoming more anti-male, more anti-family. And I really don't see it getting any better anytime soon. And that's exactly why women have gotten to the point to where they say stuff like this.
You never want to be wifey material. If a man ever calls you wifey
It's an
material,
insult.
run.
He's
run.
insulting
He
you.
thinks you're dumb.
Yep.
He thinks you're dumb.
In case you didn't know that, ladies, that is not a flex. He's like, I can pull the wool over her eyes. She's a dumb bitch. That's literally what they're not going to say that to you, but that's what they're thinking. And that's why they will marry you, because they're like, I want a dummy. So that's why I'm going to go get one. And I'm talking about these particular men who think this way. Men obviously don't think their wives are dummies. But
Of course,
but
yeah.
these red pill men,
And they'll be the ones that call you wifey material because that's like your role. Like they think that should be like your role in
that's
life.
what you're supposed to do.
And they think it's a compliment. And it's like, no, like that means they haven't listened to a single thing you've said about yourself. That means they don't give a fuck about your ambitions, your goals, your hopes and dreams.
They don't care
exactly. And that's why they say that. No, because they really do mean it. And like at this point, they're kind of starting to just say the quiet part out loud for sure.
You'll find that decent, like good quality men, I don't know if I've ever heard them say, you wifey material. Like, I don't even know if they've ever even said that. Like, what?
So the logic from them is that if a man calls a woman wife material, he's saying she's a dummy. But if a man chooses to marry a woman, that doesn't necessarily mean she's dumb. The problem apparently is when he verbalizes it. But the action itself, deciding which woman you'll marry, which obviously means you believe she's marriage material, that's not the problem. It's the mean words that ultimately reveal, right, men have standards too. And these two simply don't qualify. Apparently they're experts on what men are thinking. I wonder if they could guess what I think about them right now. If what they said is true, I'd say they are perfect marriage material. So if being marriage material means a woman is dumb, and men say, women like themselves aren't marriage material, well, that must mean they're actually super duper smart. Truly, a couple of female geniuses on display here. Excellent work, ladies. And I love the use of the phrase dumb bitch, too. I mean, it really hammered home the point. Totally convinced. And I'm sure the women who believe this kind of logic are just as brilliant as you two. Let me help out these two very, very not dumb women here. For a woman to be wife material, it usually means she's not promiscuous and never has been. She's not a feminist. She's willing to do things for her man. She doesn't curse every other word. And she doesn't dress or post like she's advertising herself. She's loyal, she's kind, and she meets her man's sexual needs. But apparently to these rocket scientists, if a man verbalizes what kind of woman he would marry or would not marry, well, that's the issue. You're not allowed to say it out loud. You can silently filter women. That's fine. But the moment you express it, well, you're a red-pilled jerk. It doesn't mean the woman is dumb. It just means she qualifies for the role of a wife, which, frankly, neither of these women would. And that's exactly why they're mad and dumb.
We don't owe men shit. And every time someone jumps in and says, well, men don't owe us anything either, as if that somehow makes it even. As if that wipes away centuries of violence, control, and entitlement. As if getting called out once cancels all that damage. Let me break it down. Men owe us everything. Because they were the ones that stole it from us first. They took our bodies and called it their right. They took our voices and they built power off of our silence. They took our safety and turned it into a game. They took our labor, our love, and our energy, and then had the audacity to act like they built it all themselves. And now they want grace? For what? For the bruises? The lies? The years we spent bending over backwards trying to be enough? You owe us protection, but you left us bleeding. You owe us love, but you weaponized it instead. You owe us respect, but you never earned it. So yeah, you're mad now. But not because we hurt you. You're mad because we stopped hurting ourselves to keep you comfortable. You're mad because we figured out your game, and we're playing it better than you ever did. There's nothing left to explain. You had your chance and you blew it. So sit back, front row, and watch your own relevance disappear.
That woman is clearly lost. She doesn't seem to understand that men built everything around her. The electricity, the roads, the phone she's recording on, the water systems, the delivery apps that she uses to order all her food, the hospitals, the planes, the towers. Men didn't do any of that by stealing women's precious love and energy. That was built through hard work, sacrifice, and actually a lot of men dying young, doing jobs that feminists like her would never in a million years sign up to do. And it really makes you wonder, where do you think she learned to be so hateful, to feel so victimized, right? To believe she's so oppressed and has been historically, that if not for men, women would somehow be, thriving so much more, living in the future. They'd have flying cars by now. No wars, of course, as well. All of that comes from feminism. And it's ridiculous that women say stuff like this and really just ignore how many young men, have died throughout history and wars defending these countries. And, they'll brush it off like, yeah, well, those guys were, they were brothers and husbands. So actually, women were the ones most affected by their deaths. And that's kind of the twisted logic that this ideology will create. And it's always this oppressed narrative that's drilled into their heads. And it's clear this woman is completely gone. She is off her rocker. And yet, you see that? 24,000 likes. That is insane. And this is the kind of nonsense, rampant, spreading like wildfire on TikTok. And notice she didn't even really say anything specific, just a bunch of emotional vomit. She's clearly very upset, clearly very hurt. And, but it blows up, right? Because, well, misery loves company. And it's like men gave you everything. Men built civilization. And to hear women talk like this, it's insane. She thinks that men, took women's bodies. That's what she said. Took women's bodies, stole their energy, and turned it into a game. I mean, whatever that means, right? Whatever the fuck that means. I don't know. But men built the walls that keep her safe while she's asleep. Men worked these long, grueling hours on oil rigs, inside concrete plants, so these women can live in a fantasy where they're both empowered and oppressed. Everything around her built on male sacrifice. Sons sent off to die in wars. And, it seems she's talking about the past, but in the past, there was more of a dynamic where, husbands are at work, breaking their backs to provide for their families. And then now we look back on that dynamic, and apparently it's oppression. And it's ridiculous. Men did not steal anything from women, actually. What they did do is give them a life they can't seem to stop complaining about.